On to the Jadeveon Clowney news.
Yes,
we
let's
go.
move on.
Let's do it. Jadeveon Clowney was recently released yesterday by the Carolina Panthers. As Warren Sharp notes, he has not been able to stick anywhere since his time in Houston came to an end. Some of that, I'm sure, has been strategic, meaning why would he have returned to Baltimore if his goal in 24 was to get as much as he possibly could value-wise, which Carolina gave him. They gave him a bag. The Ravens were not in a position to do that last year. Maybe that was a part of the puzzle. I also remember hearing and knowing that he's from the Carolina area and the proximity to family at the time was important to him. But you see what the last several years have been like for him. Houston, 2018. He was in Seattle in 19, Tennessee in 20, Cleveland in 21 and 22, Baltimore for a career year in 23, and then just last year in Carolina. So the question becomes, based on some reports out there, like this one, at least one report from John Frischella, tell you about him in just a second. But he is noting, as of yesterday, that Jadeveon Clowney and the Ravens, and a reuniting, if you will, is, quote, picking up steam, according to his source. Sarah, I had to go back and take a look to try and jog my memory on who John Frischella is. He's got a big following on X.
Like $100,000 or grand as if it's money, $100K.
He's got a six-figure following, but he also is regularly community noted, and he is known within some Twitter spheres as being a troll, as being somebody that fabricates information, and being click hungry, I should say. So for whatever that's worth, just throwing that out there. Let's have the Clowney conversation, though. Your thoughts on this tweet, your thoughts to maybe expand a little bit on what we learned in real time yesterday of this release would be what?
Okay, so first to the tweet. I was a little surprised by it, and I didn't know his background. So that background, is good to hold as context, right? That sometimes the reporting from this Twitter account isn't always, it's not as reliable as, say, like if a Jeff Zrebiec were reporting it, or if an Adam Schefter or an Ian Rappaport, right? Like not quite the same credibility that those guys hold. And not knowing his background, though, it felt a little surprising to me because I don't think that the Ravens are against bringing back Jadeveon Clowney, and this is all just speculation, but I would be surprised if they moved super fast unless Jadeveon's agent came to the Ravens and was like, hey, he wants to come back, right? Correct. It was a career year with 9.5 sacks. He fit in really well. He knows that you guys are Super Bowl contenders. Like, he would like to come back. So in that sense, if the agent quickly called Baltimore, maybe that's true. Maybe it was picking up steam. I don't know what that means. Could they have had conversations? Wouldn't shock me if immediately after he got released that his agent's calling a lot of people. A lot of people see the fit, obviously, because they did work out so well. I grabbed a couple tweets from people whose sentiments on this topic align with mine. You can tell me if you align with it also. Jeff Zrebiec was asked, hey, would you bring back Jadeveon Clowney? And he said that he's sort of torn. He says, obviously, the fit is great here, and he played really well, but it would essentially mean you are not going to get much of any look at your young edge rushers if you have KVN, Owe, Clowney, and then Tavius Robinson being a part of the rotation as an edge setter. He goes on to say, you still have to develop players. He says, otherwise, you're wasting draft picks. He says, every offseason, there are these questions about edge rusher. He says, tough to keep band-aiding it every year and hope to catch lightning in a bottle with a vet. So I'm with him. Like, I'm not against it, but like, I also feel like the Ravens are pretty set, and I do agree with them. And I'm not sure people understand this as much. Obviously in practice, you can give reps to people. But when it comes to the preseason, and then once you start getting to the regular season, you're divvying out reps. And I want to see those reps going to somebody like Mike Green. I want to see Tavius Robinson growing. And to Jeff's point, like, you don't want to get caught in the cycle where you're looking for a Clowney or a KVN as this Band-Aid in this patch. And I'm really in line with Ken McCusick. This is how I would best see Jadeveon Clowney fitting in Baltimore. He talks about how good they work together also. He said the Ravens could benefit from him being on the team, but the team usually doesn't carry 6. That's a lot to have 6, Bobby. And right now they have Van Noy, Owe, Thompson, Green, Adisa Isaac, and then if you put Clowney in there, that's 6. And that's even if Ojabo was cut and traded. And again, they don't usually keep all 6.
And who's trading for him?
I don't know why anybody would trade for him.
Yeah.
With what he's done right now.
So it'd be a release. I mean,
it'd probably be a release. Maybe you could get a 7th rounder out of him. Something late like that.
That'd be stunning. But yeah, at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
At the most. At the most.
Right. And so this line at the bottom from Ken McCusick is exactly where I'm at. He says Clowney could be a season-saving addition if depth does not hold up. So in the past, Jadeveon has a lot of times not signed until late into training camp. So I don't know if that's going to happen again. But if I'm the Ravens, I risk him signing elsewhere. But there's a good chance he could still be around. I risk that happening and get a look at my young guys, see what Green really has to offer, see what Adisa Isaac has to offer, see if Owe's take another step, if Tavius Robinson's take another step. And then if an injury occurs or one of these guys isn't stepping up the way you'd like, then I would step in and grab Jadeveon Clowney.
I have no problem with any of that. It's also really enticing, though, because of what he did in 23.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that, right? The 9.5 sacks tied his career high, Sarah, in 23. He had to go back to 2017 the last time he put forth that production. And on top of that, he brought it in other areas. He had 19 quarterback hits. He had 9 tackles for loss, 43 total. He had 2 forced fumbles, one of which were recovered. I mean, the guy was an absolute force to be reckoned with. But then they went and got, obviously, Kyle Van Noy that same year. And so he served as that sort of that veteran presence last year. And yes, he was the beneficiary at times of Nnamdi Madubuike's push in the interior, as was Odafe Owe. So I think I'm with you. I think I could go either way. I'm not inspired to sit here and say they need him, but I could also see how, one, absolutely, Ken is correct that this depth would be significant. Mm-hmm. Especially after you learn of what you have. And it would be a sure thing. You don't know how many sure things you have, I guess, outside of Kyle and Ojabo, or excuse me. Unfortunately for David, he's been anything but a sure thing over his first few years. But outside of Kyle and Odafe after last year, you really don't know what you have, including Mike Green. He's a rookie.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it. We're all kind of singing his praises, deservedly so, because great value in the second round, incredible production, what a motor. Everybody's praising him, but we don't know how that's going to translate. He's still got to get through a healthy training camp too. Knock on wood. You know, all rookies go through those learning curves, physically, mentally, spiritually. So I'm with you. And along these lines,
I think just real quick to put a bow on it. If I'm EDC, I'm sitting in EDC's chair. I'm not making any phone calls. If the agent calls me, obviously I'm willing to talk. He really wants to be back with you. He's willing to take, a depth role. We're willing to take a veteran minimum. Then I'm listening. So I'm willing to take phone calls. I'm not making any phone calls until deep into training camp after I've seen what I can get out of my guys.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Because and JD probably on the other end with his rep being like you already said, I'm not trying to participate in training camp anyway.
Yeah.
I already showed you guys in 23 that I can join the program super late and still give you super production as he did in 23, much like Kyle too. Mm-hmm. Kyle was not a part of the program the summer of 23, goes on to have a career season for them and has backed that up. Now he did participate in training camp last year. I'm sure much to his, as a matter of fact, I know this is much to his chagrin, Sarah, because I ran into him. I don't think you'll mind me saying this. I ran into him in Harbor East last summer and I was like, hey, how's it feel to be a part of a training camp? And he gave me a little eye roll, a funny eye roll. So
all these veterans would like to start after, right before the first preseason game or after the first preseason game. That's what veterans want to do.
Yes, especially in a state like Maryland with the summer climate here. Goodness gracious. Dog days of August hit different, especially when the pads come out. So that is that. And within this conversation as well, I mean, we are talking about another outside linebacker. That's not necessarily the segue, but the money that they could potentially use on bringing in part, Jadeveon Clowney, is that $4+ million, Sarah. It's got to go other areas too, and making sure you're getting your rookies locked down and practice squad sign and whatnot. But when we went over earlier in the week after Justin Tucker was released, and what was the number? Is it 4.2 after June 1, I believe?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So 4.2, you can tack on 1.8 to that number because, as Jeff Zaribek noted earlier today, former edge rusher, former outside linebacker Tyus Bowser withdrew his $4.5 million grievance against the team for how it handled his knee injury during the 2023 season. That's according to Jeff's team sources. So as a result, the Ravens are going to get a $1.8 million salary cap credit. I did see Tyus on Instagram in Baltimore recently, and I wonder if that was a meeting. You would think that that's handled by his representatives, or maybe he still has a place here. Maybe there's no correlation, but this certainly doesn't hurt the situation from a financial outlook, Sarah.
Yeah, and it's just for those that don't remember what this grievance was all about. So remember the Ravens had cut Tyus Bowser. Remember like the mystery that was around his injury? It seemed like he had reported. I remember watching the video. You know how the Ravens Productions grabs videos of the veterans when they come in for camp, whether it's voluntary or mandatory, they get them walking in from the parking lot. And I remember seeing video of Tyus Bowser, and I was like, is there a little limp there? And so it appeared that he came back to camp with an injury. And I don't know if that's for sure the case, but that's the way it appeared on the outside. And so, and I bring this up because if you are injured on campus and you're doing Ravens football related activities, they still have to pay you. But if you get injured off campus and doing non-Ravens activities, then they don't have to pay you. And so remember, he came back and it just was like, well, it's camp. He'll probably be fine by, week 1. And then week 1 rolls around and the first quarter of the season he just never was able to come back. So the Ravens cut him at the end of the season and he filed a grievance saying, hey, you owe me my $4.5 million. So there clearly was it appears to me that there was like a dispute about where his injury happened and if the Ravens are on the hook for that. And so under the CBA rules, when you file a grievance, 40% of that, until it's settled, 40% of that has to remain on your cap. It counts against your cap. And so with him withdrawing it, it clears up that 1.8. It's not the full 4.5 because 4.5 wasn't on the cap. It was 40% of it, which was 1.8. So now that he's withdrawn it, and who knows why he did, maybe he just got a feeling that he wasn't going to win it, whatever, but they withdrew it. That gives him the 1.8 million. And remember last year after they cut him, he was signed by Mike McDonald out in Seattle where he was on the practice squad. And then mid-season, Miami Dolphins come in, sign him off the practice squad to their active roster. And I think he ended up playing here. I wrote it down. He ended up playing in 9 games with 5 starts in Miami. So, hey, I wish nothing but the best to Tyus Bowser. I always liked him. But that grievance was hanging over. So now he can move forward with the Miami Dolphins. The Ravens can move forward. The grievance is now settled. Ravens get their 1.8 million. Tyus Bowser gets to go continue his career elsewhere.
Genuinely good dude, to your point.
Yeah.
So best of luck to him, and best luck to the Ravens with a little bit of extra cash in the manner of a $1.8 million figure.